Dear friends, this is episode 101 of the Code of Civil Procedure. We are dealing with section 9. In the last episode, I cited a decision of the Supreme Court in AER 1995 Supreme Court 2001, that is Most Reverend PMI Metropolitan versus Moran Mar Marthoma. And I said about the history briefly. History of the litigation, not on the facts of it. And I said that 2 points are relevant here in this decision. That is section 9 and section 11. Now section 9, we will deal with it. Dispute about the religious office is a civil dispute, as it involves dispute relating to rights which may be religious in nature but are civil in consequence. Even those suits are cognizable which are not only civil but are even of civil nature. It includes worship, belief, faith, devolution, etc., and extends to rituals. Paragraphs 27, 28, 29 and 38, 46 and 47 are the relevant paragraphs. I will say again, 27, 29, 38, 46 and 47 paragraphs are relevant. Now, para 27, I think I will read some of the portions. To begin with, the objection to the maintainability of a suit under section 9 CPC was probably not raised in 1954 and 59, and if raised was not pressed. But that by itself may not preclude the defendant appellant from raising it even in this court, as the bar or lack of jurisdiction can be entertained at any stage, since an order or decree passed without jurisdiction is non est in law. So it is a question of jurisdiction, even if it is not raised in the trial court. That is about the jurisdiction, means that is the not territorial or pecuniary, but the jurisdiction in respect to the subject matter. That is to be noted. So in paragraph 27 it is stated. Then in paragraph 28, reference is made to AER 74 Supreme Court 1126. The expansive nature of the section is demonstrated by use of phraseology, both positive and negative. The earlier part opens the door widely. Court is referring to section 9. The earlier part opens the door widely and the latter debars entry to only those which are expressly or impliedly barred. The two explanations, one existing from inception and the latter added in 1976, bring out clearly the legislative intention of extending operation of the section to such religious matters where right to property or office is involved, irrespective of whether any fee is attached to the office or not. The language used is simple but explicit and clear. It is structured on the basic principle of a civilized jurisprudence, that absence of machinery for enforcement of right renders it nugatory. The heading, which is normally key to the section, brings out unequivocally that all civil suits are cognizable unless barred. What is meant by it is explained further by widening the ambit of the section by use of the word shall and the expression all suits of a civil nature unless expressly or impliedly barred. This decision gives you an insight into the basic concept of section 9. Then para 29. Each word and expression casts an obligation on the court to exercise jurisdiction for enforcement of right. The word shall makes it mandatory. No court can refuse to entertain a suit if it is of description mentioned in the section. That is amplified by use of the expression all suits of a civil nature. The word civil, according to the dictionary meaning, relating to citizen as an individual, civil rights. In Black's Law Dictionary, it is defined as relating to provide rights and remedies sought by civil actions as contrasted with criminal proceedings. Then further down discussion goes on. We are not very much concerned. We are concerned, but not in this episode. Last sentence in that long paragraph. The section would therefore be available in every case where the dispute has the characteristic of affecting one's right, which are not only civil but of civil nature. I will read it again. The section would therefore be available in every case where the dispute has the characteristic of affecting one's rights, which are not only civil but of civil nature. Then next paragraph 38, a small portion. Religion is the belief which binds spiritual nature of men to supernatural being. It includes worship, belief, faith, devotion, etc. and extends to rituals. Religious right is the right of a person believing in a particular faith to practice it, preach it and profess it. It is civil in nature. The dispute about the religious office is a civil dispute, and it involves disputes relating to rights which may be religious in nature but are civil in consequence. Religious nature but civil in consequence. Such rights are there. Then further down at paragraph 46, excommunication in religious order, and that too of a spiritual head, entails serious consequences, both religious and civil. That is a question which is involved. Whether a person who is excommunicated from the church, that is one of the highest punishment a church can offer, that you are not a member of the church, you are excommunicated, means he forfeits all his rights as a believer of the church. He does not get the privileges he gets in churches. No prayer can be allowed. No, in regard to marriage, death and all those things, there are so many ceremonies and functions in the church relating to that. All those things will not be available. So, excommunication of a Christian from his church is of very serious consequence. It affects his civil rights. That is a point involved. One of the effects of such action, paragraph 47, one of the effects of such action is that the person concerned is deprived of the right of worship. Under our constitution, it is a fundamental right. Any interference with it or its deprivation can be challenged in a court of law. Even in England, the courts extend the protection regarding ecclesiastical matters if they affect the right, as is clear from paragraph 337 of Halsbury's Laws of England, 4th edition, volume 14. So there are purely religious matters, and it may appear that it is religious, but it affects a person's civil rights. Constitution, our constitution is supreme rather than the constitution of the church, so far as an individual's rights are concerned. There is a constitution for churches, and there is a system of administering justice in churches also. There are church courts. That is regarding certain matters they may have it, but whether that will have supremacy over the civil code established under our constitution. And it is said it does not, because constitution is the most important thing. Civil rights are protected, and if there is a religious order or religious institution denies a person his civil rights, that can be challenged in a civil court. This is what is held. This is a principle with respect to section 9. It may appear that it is regarding the church and all those things, regarding religious matters and all those things, purely unconnected with any office. Here there is no office. So we see in section 9 an office of profit or otherwise, or any duty cast. Here a citizen, an ordinary citizen, he has got certain duties, no doubt about it, but at the same time he has got rights, and this is not connected with any office. It is a constitutional right, a right to worship, a right to believe, and that is denied by the excommunication, and it can be challenged in a civil court. This is the crux of the matter. Next, we will go to Premier Automobiles. We have already cited. Then another decision, AER 2000 Kerala 329. It is reported in KLT also. 2000 volume 2 KLT 216 by Justice K. Abdul Ghaffur. He is no more. Muhammad versus Moideen Haji. Muhammad versus Moideen Haji. This is a unique case. I have not seen any such cases reported anywhere in India in a law journal. To my knowledge, I have not seen, because at the time of arguing the case, I searched, and even thereafter I have not come across any such decision. So this is a decision which you may just read, even though it is Kerala, it is not Supreme Court. But there is no Supreme Court judgment on that point. There is no judgment of any other High Court reported to my knowledge. I am not saying that there is no other, but to my limited knowledge. What is this case? In Kerala state, Muslim population is there. There are certain districts which are where the population is high. In particularly North Kerala, which is called Malabar, which was part of erstwhile Madras state. Kerala is of 3 states: Travancore, princely state; Cochin; then Malabar, which was part of British Madras state, part of Madras state. All the 3 merged together, and the state of Kerala was formed, leaving open something towards north and something towards south to Karnataka and Kerala. This is the unique nature of the state. And disputes arose in Malabar particularly about the religious practices in mosques. In every Juma mosque, there are several types of mosques: Juma mosque and Niskarapalli. Juma mosque is a mosque where on every Friday there will be Juma prayer during noon. Friday noon prayer and congregation. That is a unique nature of Juma mosques. The dispute among 2 factions of Muslims was regarding the language to be used during that prayer, whether it should be in Arabic alone, or whether it can be in Malayalam, the regional language. That was the dispute. How this dispute arose in 70s. In Kerala, almost all Muslims are Sunni Muslims, were. In Sunni faction itself, a split or a difference of opinion arose and a group called Wahhabi group was formed, which later became the Mujahid group, Nadwatul Mujahideen, Kerala Mujahid group. It became like that. These Mujahids said that worship, it is a advice to the congregation, and therefore it can be in any language known to the congregation. Whereas Sunnis said that it is a prayer and therefore it can only be in Arabic. This is the dispute. And both parties set out several tests to determine whether it is a prayer or whether it is only a speech. Before that, I should mention that this Friday Juma prayer, which is Friday Juma prayer, consists of Kutuba, Khutuba, Kutuba. Kutuba consists of 4 essential parts. They are Hamd, Hamd, Salat, Wasiyat, Hamd, Salat, Wasiyat and Dua. Hamd, Salat, Wasiyat and Dua. And the third part contains advice to the congregation. It is not the same in all mosques. It is not the same in the same mosque next Friday. Every Friday, every mosque, the subject may be different. It is, according to the Mujahids, it is an advice to the congregation to prepare them for leading a virtuous life. That is a main object. Local incidents, current incidents, all those things will be discussed. And there is a raised portion, some platform, which is called mimbar or mimbra. The khatib of the mosque will stand there with a stick or sword in his hand, and he does this Kutuba prayer. Hamd, prayer to the Almighty. Salat, salutation to the Prophet Muhammad. Wasiyat is a speech. Dua is the prayer. Last. And the Kerala High Court held that Hamd and Salat and Dua can be in Arabic, must be in Arabic. But the third part of it can be in any language known to the congregation, whether it is Arabic, Malayalam, English, Hindi, Urdu or any other language, which is known to the congregation, because the congregation should understand it. Then another question arose, whether this suit is maintainable. A suit was filed by one faction stating that the other faction is not permitting them to conduct the prayer in Malayalam, Kutuba in Malayalam or Arabic, or as the case may be. Several mosques, hundreds of cases arose in civil courts, either by this faction or by the other faction. Now almost all those disputes are over, because each faction has constructed a separate mosque in almost every place, because of they are well off, and therefore they are constructed. Now that dispute has practically come to an end. It is well and good. At that time when the dispute was there, it was very, very serious disputes. Hundreds of cases arose, and when one case it came to the High Court and this question was raised. And then the court has no other way except to decide it. And when it came up for hearing, it came before 2 Hindu judges. And I was appearing for Sunni faction saying that it can be only in Arabic. They asked me that people should not understand is your intention, is it not? And they took it very lightly. Therefore, I thought that it is not safe to argue before a Hindu judge. Better, even if it is defeated, it is better to argue before a Muslim judge, and that too a person who knows things about their religion. And Justice Abdul Ghaffur, He is the son of a say Muslim Pandit, and he himself knows the theories, practices and all those things of Muslim religion, and a very brilliant judge. He decided it, of course it was against me, the Sunni faction, but still we have to respect that decision, we have to follow it. And the Sunni faction saying that it is not a speech but only a prayer. They say so many things. If it is a speech, it can be done anywhere. It need not be from Mimbra. If it is a speech, you need not have a sword or stick in his hands, the Khatib. But it is a prayer. Then if it is a speech, you can wear the dress in any manner. But for having this prayer, you can have the dress in worn, particularly dhoti, in a particular manner. Then before doing this prayer, all the people in the congregation should take wudu. Wudu means wash your hands and other places and get clean up. If it is a speech, why this ritual? And they have got so many contentions. The other parties also have got similar contentions. So it is not an easy thing to decide. And what was decided in the case, I will 2 or 3 paragraphs, I will read out in the next episode. It is very interesting to note various types of cases, various contentions, and one of the contentions which is relevant for our purpose in this case. You please read the whole decision, not much, only a few pages. Very simple. And the point decided is about the scope of section 9. We are concerned with that. I will do it in the next episode. Thank you.